What is up, beautiful people? It is the road to 100K a month, episode 18. And I want to talk about something that not a lot of people shine enough light on, or at least I feel like they don't put enough light on. And that is the seasons where nothing feels like anything is happening on the outside, but truly everything is happening on the inside. And that everything that you're going through is just one step forward to the version that you will be one day. And like I said, this week alone, I have felt the loneliest I've ever felt along this journey so far, arguably even in my life. But yet again, I still find ways to just continue to push forward, to continue to look at the positive light, to continue to strive to be the better version of myself the day before, and to keep fucking going. So there's going to be a lot of insights in this video that I want everybody to take away, and things that I've taken away that I'll probably be rewatching myself, and we'll go from there. But essentially, that was that, bro. And starting with Monday, we'll get straight into this, bro. I have a lot of insights. I don't want to waste a lot of time. So let's get into this, bro. Starting on Monday, or actually SPS tradition, we'll go over the P&L. So I'll put up a screenshot of the P&L. That was the week. And genuinely, we could have had such a better week, bro. And I'm going to go over every single trade as well. Could have been a much more profitable week with a lot more opportunities. But nevertheless, a learning week once again. But starting off Mondays, two tangible advice, two tactics that you guys can apply. Starting from Monday, if you guys don't have a Claude subscription, what the fuck are you doing, bro? Genuinely, I've now had Claude. Claude literally knows everything about my life, bro. I speak back and forth with that shit. Bro, every 10 minutes. Every 30 minutes at tops, bro. I'm not even fucking kidding you, bro. And one of the things I've done is I have made a Claude project, and I recommend everybody does this. And program it towards, I'm gonna try and make this as quick as possible. You program it towards your strategy and you program it around parameters that you wanna follow. When it comes to trading and learning trading, there is so many people out there. There are so many mentorships. There are so many resources, but most people really overlook seeing and learning for fucking tangible action, bro. Seeing what's happening on a fucking chart, having data that you've collected and going from fucking there, bro. And so what I've done is I've made my own Claude project and I have pretty much programmed it to every Saturday. And I started to do this as of like two weeks ago, but I'm going to share this because this is now fully working and super well. And I have actionable steps that I take going to the next week and the next week. And having a Claude project genuinely is so fucking fire, bro. The lessons I took away from risk management, everything from like things I need to be wary of when I'm in markets, patterns that I didn't even fucking know I had, is crazy, bro. And it goes into my second one, which is I built a tracking sheet. I'll put up a screenshot on the screen as well. That's my August tracking sheet. I think the biggest bottleneck for my trading right now is my pullback model is working pretty well, bro. I have a really good win rate. I'm starting to win a lot. It is really just coming down to not taking setups when I shouldn't. So taking bad setups, needing to cut those out, and my risk management. Knowing when I need to size in on my fucking winners and my high probable trades, and knowing when I need to de-risk, and knowing how to manage my set capital. So that tracking sheet that I pulled up is a direct reflection where it's risk management focused. And so that was that. And in essential form, get a Claude, bro. Get the fucking Claude subscription if you don't already, and if you do have it, set up a project and that's going to help you in your journey for sure. Because again, I already know it's going to help me a lot, but that's a fire tip right there. But as far as our bias going to Monday, we were looking bullish high time frame, but had a suspicion we could have a retrace and fill into the new week opening gap just below with the previous session's draws of liquidity from Friday in there as well. If that was to be the case, would like to see a retrace out of the 4 hour just above would be the play. If not, we'll see where we can capitalize on longs if that's going to be the case. And so we ended up trading off a reversal, never any deep retraces. We tagged into the 4 hour gap from the prior sessions, inverse the 30-second, and that was the first L. And so for one thing I've noticed this week and one thing I've learned, I am no longer trading reversals, bro. I don't give a fuck, bro. I am a trend trader. I don't want to trade against the trend. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking here, bro. High time frame is bullish and I'm going for a reversal, bro. I know a lot of people, reversals are their bread and butter. That's how they make their money. From my strategy, bro, it's just not the way, bro. I need to cut the reversals. And I learned on Monday that I took an L. I think on Wednesday I took my second L. And I just realized, like, bro, the reversals are out of the game. So that was the first trade. I don't think there's much to really say, apart from I'm no longer trading reversals with my pullback model. Going into Tuesday, this is actually super fire, bro. This is actually a super fire question. And I realized this with myself. A lot of people chase the material aspect of like material possessions. Like, oh yeah, I want the Lambos, I want the penthouses, I want the material possessions. And by all means, bro, I'm not going to sit here and fucking cap, bro. I want that shit and I'm going to get that shit. But I think something more, and I want to know where I got this from. I think it was Jack Hopkins. And it was pretty much, it's a question that you should ask yourself. What would the character be aside from the material possessions? And essentially what the question tries to allude into your brain is, who is the character that has those material possessions? And instead of chasing the possessions, chase the character. You know, for me as a trader, I want to hit 6-figure months, and that would be scratching the surface, bro. I want to hit 7-figure months. I want to be a hyper successful individual. And instead of rather taking my tangibles into what those possessions are, is chasing the character of that individual. Who is the Jake that shows up at that X version? You know, the 100 million version of Jake. How does he show up on the charts? How does he like show up on the fucking in life? And so the question that is, what it tries to allude is, what would the character be aside from the material possession? And that was a really good question for me. And for a lot of others that you should ask yourself that. And even just a reminder, but I think everybody intrinsically knows this as well. But just, you know, you should be chasing the character, bro. You know that these worldly possessions that are all by all means are brilliant. I know they're going to be brilliant because I know when I'm going to get them. I'm not going to fucking sit there and say, bro, money doesn't make you happy. I'm sure it will. But it would be more beneficial, and I'm guaranteed, and I can already sense it would be more fulfilling to chase the character, to fall in love with the journey of the individual that is worthy of possessing such possessions. And whatever that is for you, your desires, your things that you want to accomplish. Aside from that as well, I have upped my push-ups. So I do around 150 push-ups a day. I used to do 100, so I've upped that to 150. I want to push that up, bro. I don't know who it is who did 1,000 push-ups a day. I think it was Mike Tyson. It would be nice to probably get to that range. So I'm at 150 push-ups now. I've done this. I think it's a really good exercise. And for reference, this is a pure discipline. This is not a, you know, get strong fucking exercise. I do this because it would be like at 10 p.m. and I still have like 130 left to do, because if I didn't do any in the day, and I've got to push them out, bro. And so it's a pure discipline thing, and it's something I will be slowly incrementing as well. But aside from that, bias, high time frame, super bullish, 4-hour gap and the 1-hour BPR zone marked, all-time highs above. Got a good feeling today or at some point this week that we're hitting all-time highs. Indeed we did. If looking for longs, would like to see a retrace into the BPR zone or the 4-hour and look to execute from there. Draws of liquidity above and previous session draws of liquidity below, but let's see. Ended up being bullish as fuck, bro. High time frame bullish, retrace into the 5-minute, 30-second and a 1-minute inversion, and then our target was the all-time highs. So we entered and solid trade, bro. As far as from Tuesday forward, I think it was Tuesday, Wednesday in particular, just a fucking bull run, bro. Crazy work. And so that was that. Another actual tangible that I learned post-session, and it alludes to the point that I was saying earlier about what would the character version of yourself be. I learned something from Su Wei. Su Wei is a guy in the online space, a consultant. And he said, what would the $1 million version of you do in this situation? And he repeats that phrase to himself 5 times per day. I don't know, I was watching like a speech he was doing. But it's a super tangible advice, and it's a tangible tactic that you can do. I think it's important for me, even I just said that, like, oh yeah, chase the character that you want to be. But he did it tangible. He said 5 times a day, repeat to yourself, what would I do in this situation? What would I do in this situation? And what it can allude to is just making sure that you're on point. You're acting from the state of the version that you want to be at all times of your fucking day. And even shout out to that, bro. I put up my playlist that I made of the Outsmarting Reality overview book. 10 motherfuckers, I checked this morning, 10 motherfuckers have been have saved that playlist. If you're watching this and you've listened to it or you've saved it, you're one of those individuals, comment below and let me know what you think, bro. Because I haven't had anybody tangibly say what the effects it's had, if it's fucking useless, if it's also helped them. But for me, that's such a fucking gem, and I cannot recommend. This is the first time you're hearing this. watch that podcast. It's everything, not that podcast, that overview. It's an AI. It's two fucking AIs going back and forth, but it's an overview about using your mind, using the metaphysical state of this world to your advantage so you can accomplish everything you desire. And that was that, bro. And then going into Wednesday, woke up after the routine with the question of weekly goal. Oh yeah, the weekly goals. So one thing this is actually fire as fuck, bro. One thing I used to do back in my sales days, a lot of people can even know this if you're watching this from when I used to be a sales guy. I used to set weekly goals, and for some reason, and I think I know the exact reason why I stopped setting weekly goals as I got into trading, is that you hear this consensus in the space that detach from the P&L, focus on the process rather than the outcome. Don't think about the dollar amount, blah, 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 blah. And although they're tangible aspects, I think they're for newbies. I think if you, and the pretty much the mindset that I had is I'm returning the weekly goal. And for the reason being is that having a weekly goal sets a parameter where you have something to work with. I think I've noticed that for the past maybe couple weeks, there's no tangible, like what's the target? It's like you go into each fucking week and it's like, okay, let's try and make as much money as we can. Let's follow our process. Let's do whatever we need to do. We're going to make as much as we can, is what it is. But with setting a weekly goal, you have a target. You can reverse engineer how much do you need to make per day? How much do you need to make by the end of the week? If your goal is in a month, you want to make 100K a month, how much do you need to make in a week? Translate it, how much do you need to make into a day? Based off your win rate, based off your profit factor, based off your metrics, how much do you need to make? And it's like, I for some reason, and I used to do this with my sales. I used to calculate my goals that I wanted to make in commissions for the month, how many calls I would need to have on my calendar, what was my close rate, literally all of these key factors applied to trading. But I think I got brainwashed by all these people online, bro, about don't set your goals, don't focus on the dollar amount. And I think it just comes down to a disciplined goal. So I am going to be setting, hope you guys can hear that. Hell yeah. But it's essentially like setting, for those that didn't hear, it's a fucking car, bro. Me saying hell yeah. But it's, the weekly goal is it keeps you aligned, bro. And I think it comes down to discipline, bro. If I'm setting my goals, and I will be, from a profit factor. Going into next week, I want to make 10K. That's my goal. This week I made 2K. I think I can make 10K next week. And if it means that on Friday I'm at literally 9,400, I'm not taking a trade, bro. I'm not compromising my rule sets, my parameters in place. But I'm gonna pretty much reintroduce the weekly goal, and I recommend everybody does as well. I think for some people it will help a lot, bro, because I figured I'm trading like a feather in the wind in a way. Like, yeah, I'm recording this series. Yeah, I'm gonna be hitting 100K a month, but it's like tangibly, let's make tangible progress week by week. And I think a long story, but I'm gonna be implementing that again. As far as that as well, I was watching an Alex Hormozy sort of thing as well. I think it was a live. One thing I'm gonna be doing, my rent expires in like 70 days from now, 65. And I am going to be downgrading, bro. I'm going to be downgrading. Right now I live in Dubai. I'm going to be downgrading, bro. Because I think I listened to something Alex Hormozy said. And it was live below your means. I think a big mistake I did was move into this apartment. It's like 3K a month. And I moved here when I first came to Dubai. I was a closer. I was making 10K a month. And I learned my mistake, bro. Because I'm literally starting from scratch. But it's live below your means, bro. I am going to be downgrading purposely. And the reason being is that and it always stuck with me. And no, it didn't always stick with me, but it stuck with me when Alex said this. When you have nothing on the table, when you have no expenses, when you have nothing holding you down, or an inflation, like a lifestyle inflation holding you through, you can take disproportionate risk. And so that's what I'm going to be doing, bro. I guarantee when I'm starting to hit 100K months, these prop firms are going to ban my ass, bro. There will come a point where the roosters will come to, I don't know what the phrase is, bro. But fuck, bro. I'm gonna get nerfed, bro. I'm gonna be nerfed at the door. So I'm probably gonna be starting to build a live account at one point. I'm gonna be able to take more risks. And by having such a low expense life, bro, I'm going to be taking risks, disproportionate risks. And I can take a risk after risk after risk after risk. And living in a place like Dubai, and I would imagine for like my American viewers, like living in a place like Miami, Bro, you see it all the fucking time. You see the young guys. I even have friends that I know fucking driving fast cars, or I knew people like connections driving fast cars, and it's like, bro, you want to be part of that club as well, but it's having that discipline in the early days where that isn't the case. But as far as that long-winded, Wednesday, after yesterday's all-time highs, suspect a continuation in bullish days, lots of key zones with 30-minute gaps, 1 hours, 4 hours. We'll be looking for a pullback and likely look for longs. Let's see. Very valuable lesson learned on Wednesday. We went for bullish route. We tagged into the 30-minute. We had Asia high draws of liquidity swept. Inverse the 30-second, all-time high markets entered. And again, bad trade. No more reversals. Once again, I'm trying to trade a fuck-ass reversal, bro. Fuck that shit, bro. I'm generally, like, bro, I'm done with it, bro. I could have avoided so many losses. I think this was the last, but I think it might have been the second last. Or I think this was the last. But no more reversals, bro. I fucking hate that shit, bro. But so we ended up losing that. But as you can see, I put in the same screenshot, so it's super clear. What I should have known is that we had a state of delivery. I was so close-minded to the intention of going long because we hit all-time highs. For some reason, I was just closed up to shorts. So I was like, when's my long opportunity? And so I found a long opportunity, and what I should have done is go for shorts. And where I took the short was the exact place where I should have took the short. So we broke past the gaps. We were high time frame bearish now. We pulled back into the 5-minute. We inversed off the 30-second. And then we had Asia low and the new day opening gap below as well as our target. That was the A+ setup for the pullback model. And so the recap was the valid trade was taking the short, should have avoided the long, was too close-minded to the idea of even shorting because we hit all-time highs. And so that clouded judgment going into the markets with the bias of it's my way or the only way halted me. I wasn't open-minded. I wasn't perspicacious enough. And so that was that. Would have been a solid day. And then this is another rookie mistake that we learned. And I'm grateful, and this is why I'm super blessed. I'm grateful I learned this lesson now. But 1 out of my 10 accounts actually copy traded my second trade. So that second trade would have been pretty much like a 2K day. It ended up being just one account. So I think it ended up being like a 170 day. And so what ended up happening is we took that L at the start from taking that long. And that was, I think it was like a 3K, 2K loss. And then we didn't take, it would have pretty much been a break-even day with the 10 accounts on my second trade hitting, but they didn't. They weren't copy traded. And the reason they weren't copy traded is after my first trade, I disabled all of my accounts, thinking that's it. And then a rookie mistake just wasn't on point, wasn't dialed in enough to realize, yo, you disabled your fucking accounts. We're going to be taking a second trade. Lock the fuck in. And I'm grateful this happened is because when I'm going to be on 20, 30, 40 accounts, this ain't going to be 2K mistakes, bro. If I make these sort of mistakes, we're talking multiple 5-figure mistakes. So I'm grateful that I learned this now. But I got to lock the fuck in, bro. Like, what the fuck, bro? And so that was the recap. And so when I backtested it, that was the trade. And if anything, yes, so when I backtested it, we targeted the new day opening gap. That's where probably my TP1 would have been. But I would have set my TP2 towards the 1 hour gap. And that would have been such a beautiful trade. And a very valuable lesson. I did feel kind of down when I took that setup. Because, like I said, I missed out on an opportunity for, again, a better day on the P&L. But it is what it is. But I thought about the example. I used to watch a bunch of emergency meetings by the Tate brothers. And it had, for some reason, this shit came in. And I think this clip ended up going viral. And I remember, I think I even watched that stream live. But there was a guy in the super chat. And he asked a question. He asked Tristan. Tristan, I am 19 years old. I have saved enough money to be able to buy my dream car. A Mercedes CLS. Banger fucking car, by the way. What do you think I should do? Everybody around me is telling me I need to save my money, I need to be responsible, but that's my dream car and I can afford it. And the way Tristan responded to that question was, if you think this is the last one you're ever going to make, don't buy the fucking car. If you think you have the potential to buy and make more fucking money, buy the car. And the lesson and the way this ties into the trading is, if you're somebody who gets put down by the losses, by the setbacks, like, for example, like me, I missed the trade, or I didn't miss the trade, I fucking banged on the trade, but I had 9 out of my 10 accounts not copy traded, so I missed out. Or this applies to anything. If you take a loss, if whatever, if you are gonna put yourself down, if you're gonna put yourself in a low frequency state, you're doing your future self a disservice. If you know your future self is capable and is going to be doing 5-figure days, 6-figure days, who the fuck knows, maybe 7-figure day, then you should not be phased and you should not be affected by what's happening in between. The journey, the good, the bad, none of it fucking matters if at the end of it, it's gonna get you to your end outcome. And so the lesson in that is, a loss can only destroy you if you believe it's the last money you'll ever make. Missing a setup and being down about it isn't the optimal way to go around it. So if you know more is coming, believe in yourself, bro. Believe in your edge. Believe in the process that you have, and don't get affected by it. And it's kind of like that guy, bro. If you think that this is the last one you're ever gonna make, don't buy the dream car, bro, because you're probably not. You don't believe in yourself to the point where you can make more fucking money. And that was in the car example, but that's how I translate it into the trading example. Is don't get affected by these little things along these little blips. Bro, for me, these are little blips on my fucking journey. And for you watching this, if you're ambitious enough, then it should be the same for you as well, bro. Anything that happens in your day, good, bad, wins, losses, break evens, whatever the fuck, should be irrelevant, bro. If, like I said, it's just tuition and lessons and, you know, valuable nuggets to help you with the prime version of yourself. So operate from that frequency. Once again, shout out to the fucking audiobook, bro. I'm telling you, everybody needs to listen to that shit. And I will always promote that, bro. But bias on Thursday. We had a big sell-off yesterday after hitting all-time highs. We had a 4-hour gap formed. Asia and London chopped. Trend is more bearish than bullish. We had good draws of liquidity to the downside. Could be going for shorts. Would like to see how we react off the 4-hour. Could be a good indicator too. Let's see. We ended up going bearish. High time frame bearish. We tagged into the 10-minute. We inversed off the 30-second. We entered with 4 contracts. And that ended up being a break even. Valid setup and a good break even. So that was the case there. Part of the process, part of the game. But we stayed patient, bro. We took our second trade. Once again, I was still bearish. High time frame, we were still bearish. So after, I think it was around 1 hour, 32 hours of just waiting for my opportunity, not getting phased by the entries, not FOMOing, none of that stuff. I waited for my setup, realized that, again, high time frame bearish. We pulled back into the 5-minute, we inversed off the 1-minute, and then previous day New York draws of liquidity were my targets. And so we entered with 4 contracts, really good setup, and that was my best trade of the week, I believe. So good process trade. Could have had a lower could have had a lower stop loss above the 5-minute gap rather than at the relative swing high. For better risk to reward and for being able to put more contracts. But the safe option was fine. Something to note in this case, in case this becomes a pattern. So after all of my trades, and this goes back to the point that I was saying on Monday with having really good data collection, having your data being tracked properly, and having the likes of like a Claude project, being able to go through that data and sift through it. I analyze all of these thoughts, all of these recaps. I even plug my YouTube videos and get the transcripts and all of these different things. And for anybody, you don't need to do that, by the way. You can just, like I'm saying now, have a recap and thoughts that you have written down. I plug this data into my notes, into my Claude. And so if it starts catching up again, I'm putting my stop loss above points that are too high. These are patterns that it's going to catch up on. And I purposely say this. Note this in case this becomes a pattern. And so, yeah, long story short, bro, the trade for the Thursday was I should have actually put my stop loss a little bit lower. Probably just a little bit lower from that 5-minute gap. And then I would probably been able to go in with an extra contract or 2. And so that was the lesson there. But again, it's all a fucking data game, bro. I'm literally unfazed with these little things along the journey, the wins, the losses. It's just data, bro. And soon enough, I'm going to have such a big data pool where I have everything systemized to a fucking T, bro. So again, unfazed with whatever this is just more data. I say it in one of my affirmations. I have a pre-market affirmation list. I say it all the fucking time, bro. Each session gets me closer each session gets me new data to further sharpen my edge. So like, bro, if you repeat that shit to yourself, it's such a good fucking affirmation. That's actually fire as fuck. But hell yeah, bro. But Friday, and that was that, bro. And then Friday we learned that passage, which I'll share as well. To sum everything up, because again, I have felt the loneliest I've ever felt right now in this journey, but nevertheless, we still make fucking progress, bro. And a high time frame, we were not super clear. Again, it being Friday has always been unpredictable when it comes to my trend. That's from my data. A 2 hour gap and a 1 hour gap below. We had non-farm employment plus unemployment plus employment rates released at 8:30. Shit fucking pumped. Hence for the pump into the 4 hour gap, which rejected. But I'm going to be staying open-minded. And so we ended up going bearish, man. So our confluences, we had a pullback into the 10-minute gap. We inversed off the 30-second. We respected off the 4 hour from the open. And then our targets were the 8:30 data wick from when the releases were happening. So we entered. And so it was a break even. And I put here in my trade, and I talked about this on my IG reel. For reference, if you guys want to know and see my daily trades that I take on a daily basis, you can just check out my IG. It's Jake Wood, same title as my YouTube. And I talked about this on my reel when I was recapping and when I was going through it. I should not have gone break even. It was such a high probability setup, which swept with the relative lows, should have trailed stop, but not to the entry level, for the reason that we manipulated and dumped straight to TP1. Lesson learned. In many cases, it was a valid break even, not in this one. So the reason I went break even is it took out my relative lows from market open. And for me, I usually always go break even at that point. This was a different exception, mainly for the fact that we had that data wick from the non-farm payroll news and then the unemployment and the employment rates releases. And data wicks have such, I realized this from when I was just time in the market so far with draws of liquidity. Data wicks, which is pretty much for anybody who doesn't know, it's releases when a news release happens. So for example, if a Trump tweet happens and the market completely dumps, that's a very high draws of liquidity because the market just rationally dumped. It's a data wick. It was made because Trump said a fucking tweet. Or in this case, 8:30, we had the unemployment and the employment rates. So this was such a high probability setup. And as you can see, it was pure manipulation, bro. The market took out these relative lows and started to make a move to the upside. And then I guarantee you, all these fucking guys probably longing dumped on that shit, bro. And so what I should have done is the relative high just above where I entered should have trailed my stop a little bit. That should have been my way of de-risking rather than going to break even and being risked to just a quick wick out and then just a quick fucking dump down. And so that would have been a TP1. TP2 would have been a break even, but nevertheless, that would have ended a win for the end of the week. So once again, another summary. This week could have been such a fucking banger week, but so many lessons, bro. So many losses that could have been avoided once again. So many wins that could have been taken. But these are all steps to the right direction, bro. And so, honestly, as much as I can even force myself to feel bad, it's part of the game, bro. I'm learning this shit, and I'm gonna be a fucking GOAT at this shit, bro. And aside from that, we'll end it with the passage. You know, that's how we'll end this video, bro. Or if anything, do I have anything else to share? Oh yeah, meditate, bro. You guys need to fucking meditate. I remember when I first, I think I shared this on the last episode, I used to meditate the fuck, bro. It used to be part of my self routine all the fucking time, and I would meditate, bro. And so I pretty much reintroduced that habit. And in summary, I'll tell you how this works, bro. And I think in the overview that I mentioned, it shares this. I think I'm gonna get this right. But the way our subconscious works, not a lot of people know this, but 95% of your daily actions, your thoughts, anything that's happening on a consistent basis, 95% of it is subconscious. 5% of you literally is conscious about what you're fucking doing at any given time. 95% of it is subconscious. And so we operate from a lens of brainwaves. And I think there's 5 or 4 brainwaves. I think you have gamma, which is like the daily sort of brainwave, which is like associated with your everyday sort of stuff. Then you have beta, which I think is part of it as well. And then you have alpha and theta. And these are your 2 ones that you want to go. Alpha and theta are brainwaves where your brainwaves are slow. And they're associated with relaxation and just being calm, being at a meditative state. And you realize this. Think of it, the best example you can think of it is just before you're about to go to sleep. When you're feeling tired, that slow sense, that is the time where you can access your subconscious. And I think you have delta. I think delta is associated with when you're knocked the fuck out, bro. When you're in deep sleep. And so the goal is, when you go into meditation, is to be in alpha and theta states. And that allows you to go into your subconscious brain and, again, rewire certain beliefs. That's why hypnotists, if you ever wondered how hypnotists work because they alter your brainwaves. They put you in such a low brainwave state, usually within the alpha and theta range. That's why they tell you to relax. That's why they take you to tell you to have deep breaths and put you in a trance, because that's a trance state. That's when they can alter your fucking brainwaves. Fire shit, bro. I learned this shit. I remember I studied this. It was like Andrew Huberman a couple years ago, but that was fire. But the summary of this week, and I remember I said this at the start of this video about the summary that I learned. And funny enough, bro, this summary came from Claude, because I told Claude about the situation I was. Give me a story that can help me, you know, not push through this, but a good summary of the time that I'm currently going through, the loneliest period right now in this journey, and how I can continue to keep pushing forward. I'm going to read it out, word for word. Conor McGregor, 2012, 23 years old, collecting welfare checks in Dublin, 188 euros a week, living with his parents. All of his friends had jobs, normal lives, were moving forward. He was waking up every day to train for a career nobody around him believed in. Completely isolated in his vision. No evidence it was working yet. Just a feeling and a daily commitment to something nobody else could see. He told his dad, "I'm going to be a world champion." His dad nodded politely, because what else do you say to somebody with that much certainty? 12 months later, he signed with the UFC. 3 years later after, he made 13 million in one fucking night. The gap between the welfare checks and the $13 million wasn't talent. It wasn't connections. It wasn't luck. It was a period that you're in right now. That's specific, unglamorous, lonely season where the only things keeping you going is the clarity of what you're building and the refusal to let a slow month become a stopped life. And I read that shit, bro. And I hope I had the same effect on you watching this. That hit me, bro. And a lot of people sometimes don't realize that the journeys that you're going through, other people are feeling, bro. And you know, I looked up Conor, and I still look up to Conor, for sure, as an idol, not an idol, but as somebody you can praise. And seeing that story, bro, from somebody who went from welfare checks, living with his parents, you know, doing something completely unconventional, bro, doing something that nobody believed in, doing something that, you know, he had no right mind to pursue whatever he did. But he did that shit. And he did that shit at periods where it was the worst times, the loneliest times. And as you guys can see, 1 year later, he signed for the UFC. 3 years later after that, he made $13 million in one night. And then he went on to fight fucking Floyd, all these different things. So we'll end it off there on that good note, that no matter what you're going through right now, bro, no matter what I'm going through, and I say this to myself, bro, whenever I'm saying these advices, yes, I'm saying it for everybody, but I'm also saying this to myself, bro, that it's fine, bro, just keep fucking pushing, keep it stepping, and in due time, shit's gonna play out, bro. But we'll wrap it up there. And aside from that, yeah, episodes every single Sunday. You guys can also check out my IG. That's where I daily put my IG trades as well, so you guys can see my trades on through the week by week basis on there as well. But aside from that, I hope you guys had a good week. Hope you guys have a good week. And aside from that, keep fucking crushing.